All right, week 2 is in the books, another awesome week. This is what tonight's message was about. I just made the point that there's a huge difference between happiness and joy. Happiness depends on your circumstances. Joy depends on Christ. And most of us find our happiness based on what's going on around us. So if times are going really good, then we're happy. But if times aren't going really good, then we're not at peace. We're not experiencing that kind of happiness. And the Bible gives us a totally different way to live, that we can experience a joy that's greater than anything that happens around us. So if times are good, it depends on Christ. If times are not good, our joy still depends on Christ. And to prove that point, I took us to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and the story of the fiery furnace, another popular story that a lot of people know. And what happens here is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to bow down to another nation's statue because that would be forsaking their God. And the penalty of that is they get thrown in a fiery furnace. And this time, God again rescues them from that fiery furnace, just like he rescued Daniel last week. But what I focused on is right before they got thrown in, they told the king, they said, hey, our God is powerful enough to save us from this fiery furnace. We believe that he will do that. But even if he doesn't, we're still going to trust him. And what they're saying there is that regardless of what our God chooses to do, regardless of whatever his plan is, we're still going to trust him because our joy doesn't depend on what's happening around us. Our peace and joy depends on who he is. And we know that his plan is good, and knowing him is better than anything else. So I challenged us this week to think about, where are we finding our joy from? Is it coming from our circumstances, or does it come from Christ? Because the good news of the gospel is not that things are always going to go our way. The good news of the gospel is that we get God, and he's enough regardless. Of course, the greatest news of it all is that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego tell the king that they don't need to defend themselves before him. And sure enough, 2,000 years later, God sent somebody to come and defend us in a way that we could never do for ourselves. Of course, I'm talking about Jesus. Jesus came to earth to live a perfect life, to defend us from the penalty of sin. He went up on a cross, rose again 3 days later. By believing in him, we are saved from the penalty of sin. And that's the good news of the gospel. And no matter what happens around us, we can trust that our righteousness and our standing before God does not depend on what we do for him, but it depends on what Jesus did for us. That's the good news of the gospel. So that's week 2 message. Let us know if you have any questions. Hopefully that helps you and you can talk with your kids and with each other about it.